Alors, bonjour, je suis avec mon bon ami et pasteur qui est au Royaume-Uni, Ryan Strother, qui est pasteur à Sutton, dans le sud de Londres. So, Brother Strother, thank you so much for doing this with us today.
Yep, very happy to do it. Glad to talk to you guys.
So I just told them that you are a pastor and a good friend of mine in Sutton in South London. So I guess I'll just ask, how are you and your family doing during the pandemic? Being in the UK.
Our family's doing very well, and we're very thankful for that. During the last, I guess we've been on lockdown almost 2 weeks now. We're all healthy, and we've remained healthy. We're very grateful for that. It hasn't disrupted our routine too much because we homeschool the kids already. But we find ourselves doing a lot of things for other people in the church. But overall, we're still good, we're still healthy, and we're very grateful.
Alors, je lui posais la question, comment est-ce que sa famille et lui se portent pendant la pandémie, puis ils font école maison, donc ça n'a pas changé leur routine beaucoup, mais ils ont quand même l'occasion d'aller distribuer des choses aux gens de l'Église, et généralement, ils se portent bien. Well, we're glad to hear that. And I mean, here on this side of the ocean, when we hear things coming from the UK and from other parts of Europe, it seems pretty dire. So, any of your church people been affected directly?
No one in our church has been affected directly with this illness. One of the ladies in our church, her son-in-law had it. He was a headmaster at a school. Another family that we know, their daughter, 6 years old, has all of the signs, all the symptoms of it, but she's not been diagnosed with it. And there's a pastor in Wimbledon, which is about 10 miles north of us, maybe not even that far. But he's in a care home now, and they thought his wife had it. She had to be admitted to hospital, but the tests have actually come back negative. So no one actually in our church, but some of the people that we know have had symptoms of it and have had it.
Alors, je lui posais la question s'il y a des gens dans leur église qui ont été affectés par le COVID-19. Il dit qu'il y avait quelqu'un qui avait tous les symptômes, mais gloire à Dieu, c'était pas le cas. So as far as just life in the UK, even if whether it's from a Christian ministry perspective or not, I'm assuming it's going to be somewhat similar to what we're living, but how has life for British folks changed during this pandemic?
Life has changed drastically during this pandemic. I would say it's not as bad as nations such as Italy and Spain, because they've gone on total lockdown. They can't leave their house without permission, but we're still able to leave the house. They limit what we can go for. We can go for groceries. We can go for medicines. We can go for one exercise per day. We can go out. There was one other reason we could go out, for an emergency. But other than that, we are to remain at home. And so it's not as bad as some other places, but we do have a lot of restrictions on what we can do. A lot of people are working from home. A lot of people have lost their jobs. One of the men in our church has had to lay off a number of people who work under him at his company that he works for. Public transport has been cut back dramatically. And so life has changed drastically for a lot of people here. I don't know what it's been like in Quebec, but we had I guess maybe 2 weeks ago, we had a huge run on the grocery stores. I mean, literally, the shelves were empty. There was nothing. In the produce section, the fruit and veg section, completely empty. The meat section, completely empty. Even tea and coffee, breakfast cereal, totally empty. That's getting back to normal. But it was pretty hard there for about a week and a half. Thankfully, I had kind of seen it coming, and we stocked up about 3 weeks before, so we were okay. But it was pretty rough a couple weeks ago.
Ah. Donc, je posais la question, comment est-ce que le COVID-19 a changé la vie au Royaume-Uni? Et puis, il me dit, c'est de façon drastique, même si c'est pas aussi grave que l'Italie ou l'Espagne, parce que ils sont pas complètement fermés, puis ils n'ont pas eu les mêmes effets non plus. Puis au Royaume-Uni, ils peuvent sortir quand même au moins une fois par semaine, soit pour de l'exercice ou encore pour faire des choses nécessaires. Mais il y a une couple de semaines, ils ont eu quand même un épisode où, un peu comme chez nous, les épiceries étaient vides, tous les départements des viandes étaient vides, le département aussi des fruits et légumes étaient vides. Donc, il y avait eu ce sentiment de panique-là. As far as your ministry, how has it changed? I mean, obviously, it's changed your ability to gather. Right. So my follow-up question then will be, do you sense any open doors through this? Or how has it changed the way that you're trying to reach Londoners for Christ?
Sure. So we had our last actual service on March the 15th, and which we were very thankful for because our church anniversary was on March the 8th. And so we were able to celebrate our 5th anniversary. And so we're very thankful for that. We meet in a school. And so just a couple days after March the 15th, they closed the schools. And then about a week later, they mandated that all houses of worship would close. And so since the 15th, we've been meeting virtually like everyone else. And so we do YouTube on Sunday morning, YouTube and Facebook on Sunday mornings. We do Zoom on Wednesday night for Bible study. And we're also holding a Friday night prayer meeting through Zoom. And so that's what we've been doing. We also used to do outreach. Here we have the High Street, which is a shopping district. And every town has a high street. And our high street has been completely blocked off to traffic. It's only pedestrian. And so we would go out 2 or 3 times a week and pass out tracts, invite people to church there. And we haven't been able to do that now for a few weeks. And so that's been a challenge as well. We haven't been able to do much in terms of outreach. But I have noticed some openness in people. People who that I know personally who claim to be atheists have said things like, I'm praying for you. And, something that would be a completely alien concept to them in the past. And so I've noticed some openness to people. People seem a little bit more receptive. The hard part is you're not able to really make those natural contacts with people. Yeah. Face-to-face, person-to-person contacts. Can't meet up with anybody and have a cup of coffee and talk about spiritual things. Can't meet people on the high street, so it's all got to be done virtually, by email, by text. But I will give you one example that has really been encouraging to me. Last year, we had an organization give us 10,000 custom printed New Testaments. And so we just blanketed our city with those New Testaments. And we had some response from them. We had some people come to church. We had people email and thank us. We had some people call. We really didn't have anybody complain. Praise the Lord. Thankful for that. But last, I think, Tuesday morning, I got a call from a lady named Tess. And Tess called me, and Tess said, it's been a year, and I want to thank you for this Bible. And I want to apologize for taking so long to thank you. And I want to apologize for taking so long to do anything with it. But I've recently begun reading the Bible again, and it's thanks to this New Testament. I'm really thankful that this has brought me back to God's Word. And she said, when this is over, I want to come visit the church. And so there is an openness that has not been there since we've been in this country. It has not been there. And so we're very thankful for that.
Awesome. Wow, that's wonderful. Alors, I'll render it in French. Donc, je vais poser la question, comment est-ce que cette pandémie a changé votre ministère? Est-ce que ça a ouvert des portes? Il me disait que leur dernière réunion, c'était le 15 mars, ce qui était aussi le 5e anniversaire de leur église à Sutton. Et puis, donc, ils ont pu célébrer ça, mais depuis ce temps-là, comme nous, ils font des réunions le dimanche matin sur YouTube ou sur Facebook. Ils font aussi des réunions par Zoom, des réunions de prière le mercredi soir puis le vendredi soir. Et puis, il y a un changement d'attitude quand même qui a lieu avec certaines personnes et même des athées qui, normalement, ne voudraient même pas parler de Dieu, qui vont dire « Je prie pour toi ». Donc, il y a cette ouverture-là. Comme des gens de notre Église ici ont rendu témoignage aussi de leurs propres membres de famille. Maintenant, ce qui est difficile, c'est que c'est impossible d'avoir des contacts naturels face à face, d'aller sur la rue, prendre un café, rencontrer des gens physiquement. Mais une bénédiction qu'ils ont eue, c'était que l'an dernier, il y avait une église qui avait fourni 10 000 Nouveaux Testaments imprimés à leur effigie. avec la couverture qui était faite juste pour eux, puis ils les avaient distribués dans leur section de la ville. Et puis, il y a une dame qui s'appelle Tess qui, 1 an après avoir reçu le Nouveau Testament, maintenant, elle vient de les appeler pour leur dire leur demandant pardon d'avoir pris si longtemps avant de réagir ou de faire quoi que ce soit. Mais Tess les remercie pour ce Nouveau Testament-là, leur disant que ça leur a amené au Seigneur tout ce qui se passe et qu'elle planifie visiter leur église lorsque tout ça va être derrière nous. That's awesome to hear about Tess. So, I mean, as the Lord brings it to mind, we'll pray for her and pray for these other contacts. And we've had similar testimonies from our church folks about, people saying, I'm praying for you, or, new openness. So that's good. So how do you think it's going to change how you do ministry? I mean, I have my own thoughts for us, but for you, do you think it's going to change the way you do ministry even when it's all over? Is it going to change the format or perhaps some new ways of reaching people?
Yeah, we meet in a school, and which is limited the times that we can meet. So we really only meet on Sunday mornings, as far as the church services go. We do a once a month Friday night prayer meeting at our home where we invite the church family over and we pray and have fellowship, and have a devotion. But we have tried over the last couple years to find another location to host an additional meeting, especially a morning midweek meeting. A lot of churches here do what they call tea and coffee morning. Older people come, single moms come, or not single moms, but moms with kids come, mom and tots groups. But we're close enough into London that it's hard to find space to do these things. And so a lot of our people have been asking for a Wednesday night service. So we've started doing this midweek Bible study through online virtual, meetings. And so that very well may continue, us doing some things like that, because I'm able to teach them. They want more. And so we may wind up continuing doing more of that. I've been hesitant in the past to really broadcast our services, mainly because I take the philosophy of, I would rather you find a local church and be involved in it than just be a virtual member of our church. Mm-hmm. And so I've been very hesitant in the past to put our services on YouTube or Facebook or anything like that. I don't want people living vicariously through our church. I want them involved in a local church of their own. Mm-hmm. But maybe that will change. I don't know. But those are some things that we've done. I've just been praying that God would use this to open people's eyes, open people's hearts, that people would respond. There's a lot of fear right now. Obviously, man can't sort this problem out because it's spread worldwide and we can't control it. And so I'm praying that people will turn to the Lord. As far as ministry, I don't know, other than maybe more virtual meetings. I don't know what long-term impact it'll have. I'm praying that maybe the churches will be more full. I told my wife last night, what I wish they would do is about 2 weeks beforehand, they would lift the meeting restrictions for church. That way, that would be the only place people could go, and they're dying to get out of the house. But that's never going to happen. So I'm hoping maybe churches will be full as soon as this is over because people will be dying for some social interaction. But
yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Donc, j'ai posé la question, comment est-ce que tu penses que ça va changer votre façon de faire l'œuvre du ministère, même après la pandémie? Puis, notre frère Strother nous dit que leurs rencontres sont dans une école, donc leurs réunions sont dans une école, donc c'est difficile pour eux de se rencontrer autre que le dimanche matin. Une fois par mois, il reçoit les gens chez eux le mercredi soir aussi pour une réunion de prière, mais peut-être qu'après ça, ils vont ajouter plus de rencontres virtuelles. Dans le passé, ils étaient hésitants à mettre leurs réunions en ligne parce que ils ne voulaient pas que des gens suivent leurs réunions seulement de manière virtuelle plutôt que de physiquement s'assembler à une église locale dans leur région. Mais peut-être qu'il va se raviser là-dessus. Et puisque les gens vivent beaucoup dans la crainte présentement, il espère après que ce soit terminé, les gens vont remplir les églises. Puis il disait à son épouse hier soir que ça serait bien si le gouvernement pouvait permettre les rassemblements seulement dans les églises pendant 2 semaines avant de rouvrir toutes les autres possibilités, pour que les gens remplissent les églises. Et puis, évidemment, on n'est pas sûr que c'est comme ça que ça va arriver. Mais la prière demeure que quand même, après ça, les églises vont être pleines parce que les gens vont vouloir revenir à Dieu. So how can we best pray for not only you, but also for brothers and sisters in other parts of the world? I imagine probably you're in touch with other brothers in Europe as well. How can we best pray?
Well, I wrote down some things here when I answering this question, and I would say just for all of us, whether it's here in this country, whether it's in Canada, America, wherever it is, just pray that this would bring about more opportunities, more open doors to share the gospel. As I said just a minute ago, obviously mankind can't control this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So people need to realize that this is the opportunity to turn to the Lord. And so, I've had people say to me, oh, is this God's judgment and these types of things? And my response is, I don't know if it's God's judgment or not, but I do know this, it's a good opportunity to repent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good opportunity to get your life right with the Lord either way. But so pray for those opportunities. I would say this, pray for, my wife is part of a number of missions groups online through Facebook and whatnot. And I would say a lot of the things that we've seen from some of the third world countries is the missionaries are quite scared. Scared is not a good word, but they're quite apprehensive because they know what's happening here in America, and they know that how hard it's going to hit these third world countries that don't have the medical care that we have, and they know that they're going to be powerless to do really anything about it. And so a lot of people are going to suffer, and these missionaries feel very helpless to really to help these people. And so pray for them, especially in Europe, at least in Western Europe. It's very much like it is in Canada. It's a modern society. It's got a big medical system, medical healthcare system. And so it won't affect us really any differently than it will affect you guys. So the same prayer requests you would have for you, I'd say to have for us. Pray for missionaries and financial support, just to be honest. People in America are losing jobs. People in Canada are losing jobs. People here are losing jobs. And so we need to be sensitive to that, but we also need to remember to give by faith. And we're only just a few weeks into this thing, so it hasn't been a big issue for us, but I'm expecting the next couple months to be quite tight financially for missionaries. Pray for Christians in the health profession. We already mentioned that a little bit in conversation, but pray for Christians in the health profession, for them to have compassion, for their opportunities to witness, and just for their health as well as they come into contact with this illness. So those are some prayer requests that I've thought of. I don't think Western Europe really, like I said, is going to be much different from what you face in Canada. So however you pray for things there, just tack us onto it, please.
Yeah, for sure. I'll share this in French. Donc, je posais la question, comment est-ce qu'on peut prier pour nos frères et nos sœurs dans d'autres régions du monde? Alors, elle disait premièrement, prier qu'il y a des nouvelles portes ouvertes pour présenter l'Évangile. Quelqu'un lui posait la question récemment, est-ce que c'est le jugement de Dieu sur notre monde? Et puis, notre frère Strother répond à ça qu'il n'est pas certain si c'est le jugement de Dieu sur le monde ou non, mais une chose est certaine, c'est que c'est une belle occasion de se repentir, mais de se tourner vers Dieu. C'est une très bonne réponse. Les missionnaires aussi, son épouse, elle fait partie de plusieurs groupes en ligne sur Facebook où elle communique avec beaucoup d'autres missionnaires à travers le monde. Et beaucoup de missionnaires sont craintifs quelque peu, ou du moins incertains, à cause du manque de choses médicales, de ressources médicales, surtout dans les pays sous-développés ou moins développés. Et puis, ces missionnaires-là craignent aussi qu'il va y avoir des attentes placées sur eux pour aider à régler les problèmes des gens, puis ils n'en seront pas capables. Alors ça, c'est un sujet de prière pour les missionnaires, surtout dans des pays appauvris. Aussi, pour l'Europe de l'Ouest, comme au Royaume-Uni ou dans d'autres pays européens, ils ont les mêmes ressources que nous avons, donc les requêtes vont être les mêmes que les nôtres, comme ce que nous prions pour nous-mêmes. Il demande aussi qu'on prie pour le soutien financier des missionnaires parce que, alors que des gens aux États-Unis ou au Canada perdent des emplois, eh bien, le soutien aux missionnaires risque d'être plus difficile. Mais les missionnaires qui sont à l'étranger, ils sont quand même dépendants de ce soutien missionnaire-là pour faire ce qu'ils font, puis eux-mêmes s'attendent à ce que dans les prochains mois, ce soit assez serré financièrement. Donc, en même temps, c'est un défi pour nous d'être fidèles dans notre soutien aux missionnaires parce que eux sont à l'autre côté de l'océan, à d'autres endroits, puis ils vivent par la foi, oui, mais sont aussi dépendants du soutien pour faire ce qu'ils font et pour rester là-bas. Puis aussi, il demande qu'on prie pour les chrétiens qui sont dans la profession de la santé, dans le monde médical. Qu'ils puissent avoir la compassion pour les gens qu'ils rencontrent, peu importe l'état de la santé de la personne, aussi qu'ils puissent saisir des occasions de témoigner, mais aussi qu'ils soient protégés dans leur propre santé. Thank you for those. And before we close the call, we'll take a prayer time and bring these things to the Lord. But I'll go ahead. Would you have a scripture thought you could share with us? Something the Lord's laid on your heart, and either devote or preach or whatever you want, but anything that'll give us some spiritual food for thought.
Sure. Well, I read this verse last week, actually Monday of last week. I read this verse, and it kind of stuck out to me as I was reading it. And I know I'm reading it in English and you're reading it in French, so I hope that the wording is very similar. But Psalm 67 verses 1 and 2, I'll read it in English, and then hopefully it says something very, very similar in French. It says, God be merciful unto us and bless us, and cause his face to shine upon us, Selah, that thy way may be known upon earth, thy saving health among all nations. And so I don't know what word the French.
It's very similar, very similar. Every application would be there in French too.
Good. So it really stuck out to me that the psalmist is writing here and is asking the Lord that his ways may be known upon the earth, his saving health among all nations. And so that really stuck out to me because obviously the issue that we're dealing with right now all over the world is a health issue. And so this idea of thy saving health among all nations, every nation in this world is crying out for health. Mm-hmm. They're all battling this health problem, this disease. And so health is the focus of every nation right now. And even more localized, it's the desire and the hope of every individual right now. Everyone is trying to protect their health and protect themselves from this virus. You know, the social distancing, the lockdown. You were saying they require you to wash your hands before they go to the grocery store. Everyone's wearing gloves here. Everyone's wearing masks here. If they don't have a mask, they're wrapping their face in a scarf. And everyone is jealously trying to protect their health. And so this idea that God's ways may be known and that his ways are the saving health among all nations. And so that really stuck with me. And so it brought out a few thoughts. Number one, I think it's speaking more in spiritual terms of salvation, but we need to remember a couple things. Number one, first of all, ultimately, it's God who gives us our health and protects our health. Mm. Our health is in God's control. Now, we need to be careful about we shouldn't go out and seek to damage our health. We shouldn't go out and drink poison and silly things like that. But ultimately, our health is in the hands of the Lord. He is over our lives. But more important than the physical health is the spiritual health, which is what this is speaking of here. It's a spiritual and a supernatural healing of the soul is what he's talking about here. He's speaking of salvation, God's gift of salvation, that it would go out among all nations. He's not just talking about good health. He's not just talking about, let there be no heart disease in the land or no diabetes in our. That's not really the ultimate point of what the psalmist is getting at here. He's speaking of a spiritual saving health. He's speaking of his salvation, people coming to the Lord, people knowing the Lord. In the New Testament sense, people being born again. through Christ, when this was written, they knew Messiah was coming, but they didn't know his identity as Christ or any of those things that we know now in retrospect. And so he's speaking of salvation. And so there's a more spiritual aspect to this. It is a healing that can only come from God.
Yeah.
It's a healing that can only come from God. And it's a healing that can only come through putting your faith in his son. The only way you can receive this saving health is through his son, Jesus Christ. And so that's what we're talking about here. None of us wants to die. And none of us wants to die from this disease. And I don't want any more people to die from this disease.
Yeah.
But more important than what happens to this body is what happens in eternity. And so when he's speaking here of thy saving health among the nations, it's a salvation health. It's a transformation of that internal sickness, the spiritual transformation to salvation. And so all nations, all people, all nations, they need to turn to the Lord and receive this healing. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord.
Yeah.
And so all nations need to turn. It's my prayer that not only will people respond to this in a spiritual way, their eyes will be open and they would see the need to know the Lord and to turn to God, but also that the leaders of our nations would humble themselves and see that they're not really in control.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that they do, a lot of things that the way they govern our nations, but ultimately they're not in control. God is in control. And that they would humble themselves and that they would then point people to the Lord. Yes. They would point their nations to the Lord. And so when I read that the other day, thy saving health among all nations, it really stuck out to me that that's what everyone is clamoring for right now, is for health. But this is health on a different plane. This is a spiritual health that is far more important than whatever physical health we may be seeking or we may need.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's excellent. Very good. I'll render the synopsis in French before we say goodbye. Je lui posais la question donc de nous partager une écriture ou une pensée biblique. Et puis, il a lu le psaume 67. The only difference is that in French, it's verses 2 and 3, because our verse divisions don't follow the same place. But dans le psaume 67, versets 2 et 3, ça dit que Dieu ait pitié de nous et qu'il nous bénisse, qu'il fasse luire sur nous sa face, pause, afin que l'on connaisse sur la terre ta voie et parmi toutes les nations ton salut. En anglais, le salut, c'est le salut de la santé. Il y a un aspect santé, puis dans l'original, encore là, ça parle de la santé de l'âme ou le salut par santé. Et aujourd'hui, on vit dans un monde où tout le monde cherche la santé. Les gens se promènent avec des masques, avec des gants ou encore un foulard. Tout le monde cherche la santé. C'est ce qui est sur les lèvres de tout le monde dans les médias. Mais ultimement, c'est Dieu qui nous donne et qui protège notre santé. C'est important, la santé, mais ultimement, ce qui est encore plus important, c'est la santé spirituelle, la santé de l'âme. Et même si Dieu est capable de nous garder en santé physiquement, ce qui est plus important encore, c'est que spirituellement, on soit en santé et qu'on soit né de nouveau. La santé spirituelle, c'est premièrement et avant tout la nouvelle naissance qu'on trouve dans le Seigneur Jésus-Christ. Et les lecteurs de Psaume 67, même s'ils ne connaissaient pas l'identité de Jésus, le Christ, n'empêche que encore là, l'importance dans l'Ancien Testament comme dans le Nouveau, c'est la santé spirituelle qui passe par une relation avec Dieu. Et c'est une guérison de santé qui ne peut venir que par le Fils, que par le Seigneur. Et encore, c'est la santé spirituelle qui prime. Et ce qui arrive pour l'éternité dans la vie des gens est infiniment plus importante que ce qui arrive dans le corps. Notre frère nous citait un autre verset qui dit que « Bénie est la nation dont Dieu est le Seigneur » et il prie que et les gens des nations puissent se tourner vers Dieu, mais aussi les dirigeants des nations puissent se tourner vers Dieu et qu'on puisse avoir vraiment un impact spirituel qui sort de ça, que les gens puissent rechercher non seulement la santé physique, mais que la santé spirituelle puisse devenir une préoccupation à travers tout ça. Well, I gave a synopsis of what she said there. So the original English was better, but hopefully it did it justice somewhat.
Oh, I'm sure you did a good job.
Well, let's go ahead and pray together before we say our goodbyes, at least officially for the recording. And I'll go ahead and pray for these requests that you shared. And I'll go ahead and pray in French, but I took down the notes that you gave, and after that, we'll say our goodbyes. And thank you for your time. So let's go ahead and pray, and I'll do it in French. Père éternel, on vient à toi te demandant, premièrement, te remerciant pour cette opportunité que nous avons d'avoir un témoignage, puis d'avoir une exhortation qui nous parvient de l'autre côté de l'Atlantique, de la ville de Londres, plus précisément avec notre frère, le pasteur Strother. Merci pour sa disponibilité, puis sa disposition pour nous partager leur expérience là-bas, pour nous aider à mieux prier pour eux, à mieux comprendre aussi les réalités ailleurs dans le monde. Et Père, je prie en particulier pour les requêtes qu'il nous a données. Je prie qu'il puisse y avoir plus de portes ouvertes pour l'Évangile. Je prie que ce soit à Londres, là-bas, dans leur ministère, que ce soit ici, au Québec, que ce soit ailleurs dans le monde, que les gens qui te servent et qui te prêchent puissent avoir des nouvelles occasions, des occasions fraîches de partager l'Évangile. Et comme il l'a dit, c'est une bonne occasion pour les gens de se repentir. Je prie pour les missionnaires qui sont dans des pays où peut-être où les ressources médicales ne sont pas comme elles sont ici ou comme elles sont en Angleterre. Je te demande, Seigneur, que vraiment tu leur donnes à eux aussi des occasions de partager l'Évangile, même si leur cœur va être brisé en voyant des gens qui sont incapables de recevoir les soins dont ils ont besoin. Je prie pour nos frères et nos sœurs dans ces positions-là, que vraiment tu fasses éclater ta gloire, que tu leur donnes ta grâce afin qu'ils puissent te servir à travers ça. Je te prie aussi pour l'Europe de l'Ouest qui sont dans la même situation que nous. On pense à l'Italie aujourd'hui, on pense aussi à l'Espagne, on pense à la France, on pense à d'autres pays qui sont fortement frappés par ce virus. Je te demande de ta grâce, ta miséricorde dans cette situation-là. Je te prie aussi pour le soutien financier des missionnaires, pour la famille Strother, pour d'autres familles que nous connaissons qui sont dans d'autres pays et qui sont allés par la foi et qui demeurent par la foi. Mais jusqu'à présent, le moyen que tu as employé pour les soutenir, c'était de façon conventionnelle, le soutien financier, les promesses par la foi des églises. Puis évidemment, nous faisons face à des temps incertains, donc les missionnaires aussi se posent la question comment ils vont recevoir un soutien adéquat pour demeurer dans leur ministère. Mais nous savons que tu es capable, nous savons que la réponse, la provision vient de toi. Alors, comme il l'a lui-même partagé dans sa propre confiance en toi, aide les missionnaires à garder cette confiance et aide-nous en tant que gens de notre assemblée à être fidèles, à soutenir les missions, les missionnaires, afin qu'ils puissent continuer à faire l'œuvre à laquelle tu les as appelés, eux qui nous représentent dans d'autres régions du monde. Je prie aussi pour les chrétiens qui travaillent dans le monde de la santé, aide-les à saisir, à trouver les occasions de partager Christ, aide-les aussi à témoigner de toi dans toutes circonstances qu'ils le peuvent et aussi garde-les en santé. Je prie pour les gens dans notre assemblée qui sont dans le domaine de la santé, que tu puisses les garder et les préserver. Merci pour ce temps. Bénis cette église à Sutton là-bas. Aide-les à avoir une croissance, donne-leur des occasions de parler de Christ dans ces jours. Et je le prie dans le nom du Seigneur Jésus. Amen. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you making time for us today. And, I know our church folks will have loved getting to know you. And we'll pray for the ministry there in Sutton and for your family. And just thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very glad to do it and glad to be able to speak to your people. Thank you for giving me that privilege. And who knows, maybe you come visit us sometime or I'll come visit you.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Have a great day. God bless.
Bye-bye.